back out here in the desert, living the dream. So behind me is my missus's car, and I'm going to try not to fall over. What we've done to start with is used a bit of garage therapy snow foam just to straight onto the vehicle, get off some of the dirt, and then I followed up with a bit of iron oxide by garage therapy. Sprayed it all over the vehicle because iron oxide contains Decon Shampoo, which is going to help with the pre-wash procedure in replacement of like a snow foam or a citrus or like Decon Shampoo. If you're used to using them with a pump sprayer, good for you. So what I've done is snow foam the vehicle, got on with iron oxide, and I've used a little bit of agitation. So I've mixed up some DMS because there was a few little water spots that I saw in here from where it was parked under a tree. Something sort of got caught on it. So DMS, and agitated the iron oxide after it's dwelled for about 9 minutes. 9 minutes? Yes, 9 minutes, because it lasts a long time in this weather. We're just under the 15-degree mark at the moment in the UK, so that makes life a lot easier. So this has really sped up the decon process. What we're going to be doing on this vehicle is we're going to be doing a bit of clay barring, and we've got the garage therapy clay bar behind me. And you know I'm a big fan of the clay bar procedure. So in here, boiled the kettle. And this is my first time using the garage therapy clay bar. And it's very, 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 very different. Now it comes in a lovely little pack, I have to say. Looks the nuts. Zero clay. Here we go. Zero clay. There you go. So it feels very different. The built hammer clay tears up quite easy. This one feels slightly rubbery, if that's the word. So what I do love about clay is the opportunity to remove contaminants from the paintwork so that we can get a nice surface ready for polishing. So I do love synthetic clays, and they're fantastic for cars that I find to have judged have least the contamination. They just like need a little bit, but I would never clay bar a ceramic coated car. I only clay bar cars that are going to be ready for machine polishing. I don't do the clay and seal method, which is something that I know my American audiences love, but over here we don't do clay and seals at all. So I'm just going to go and grab myself a little bit of chemical, because this is going to be great. Let me just hold that there. While I'm talking to you, I can talk you through it. I'm going to grab myself my pump sprayer, which has got some DMS in it. And I'm going to use that as my clay bar lube. Should have been more ready for this, but this is the run and gun stuff. This is the stuff you like, real world stuff. So we've got DMS there and a little pump sprayer. And so we're going to go ahead and start claying the vehicle. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback for my first time using it. Now, quick disclaimer, I have used the clay before. But I did use my little tip. And my little tip when I'm using synthetic clays is I use iron oxide as my clay lube. So I double up on the process. But the way this clay is manufactured, it doesn't really play well with it that way. So there's a couple of little tips for you. Using a synthetic clay bar with iron oxide is absolutely fantastic. So you go through the safe wash procedure and you can use iron oxide in that thing with a synthetic clay. But this clay, unfortunately, doesn't play well that way. But there's a lot of conversation about Korean clays, and this is an Asian clay. And so I'm really interested to see how well this plays. And actually, yeah, this feels really nice. Really, really nice. Like I said, the reports on the scene that this is a really good clay. And yeah, it's doing exactly what I want it to do. So the reason why we clay bar vehicles, obviously, is to go through a decontamination process to get rid of any bonded contaminants, just like when you're got blackheads on your nose and all that sort of stuff, you would use a specific type of technique to remove those blackheads. Paints have pores, so we want to remove that. And when I'm doing machine polishing, I want to make sure this paint is as good as it possibly can be, because what I want on the end result for this paint is it to be tacky. I don't want any protection on the paint. I want to remove that by using chemicals, whether it be a paint cleanser or whatever you want to use. But where we live, there's always a lot of bonded contaminants around here, and they get stuck on the paint. And that's just starting to see already the feedback. You see that? it's not quite be able to see, but you can see the discoloration on there. Exactly. So for those of you who are new to clay barring, I'm just going to pop this back in there. What you do is, what happens is when it starts to go cool, I like to use the kettle and keep this nice and warm. So this is going to basically make this easier to manage, because I find the softer the clay, the grippier it gets. When it becomes hard, it starts to aquaplane, and I do want it to mould to the peaks and valleys of the paint. And so if you are new to clay barring, when you've got a clay bar like this, what you want to do is just fold it again. Then you can start to knead it out, just like this. Just like you would for baking pancakes, bread, just kneading it out. And the dirt goes into the centre of the clay bar. Now, a couple of things that people talk about with the clay bars is, there's different types of ideas, and some people like to, once they've used a clay bar, throw it away. Now, sometimes you might need a dirty clay bar because you might want to use it for doing decontaminating alloy wheels or something. Do you know what I mean? So hold on to your clay bars, because you never know when you're going to use them. Great for exhaust pipes, door shuts, those kind of areas. But you should get quite a few uses out of them if you just keep kneading them. Don't need to keep using like one per car, especially if this is something you do at home. This isn't an issue at all. But I've got to say, that really is nice. Now let's not get too funny about this. I know it's a GT clay bar, so I'm not going to give you all the spiel and start selling you all the nine, you know, like doing a big pitch here that it's the best in the world. No other brand does clay bars. Of course they do. But the word on the street is Asian clay bars is really, really high regarded as a really good piece of clay. And like I said, I've used the Built Hamber clays for so long now. Probably one of the only products I still probably use by Built Hamber. This feels a little tougher, as in like more durable, more robust. Now this wasn't clay bar too long ago, so surprisingly enough, to see how much has come off this is quite impressive actually, because I quite like that feeling of how much contamination is coming off the vehicle, because it makes me feel like when I don't know, it's like this psychology with it. Like I know that now it's like, yeah, the paint's really clean. I feel like, yeah, when I machine polish it now, it's a lot safer. But yeah, GT clay. And do you know what? What I'm finding from the touch and feel is actually, like I said in the beginning, as we're going around now, I thought this would, like I said, I've always had to keep these warm. It's actually still performing quite well. It's cooled down a bit now, but it's a bugger to cut, this one. I said the Built Hamber one sort of tears up really easily. Really easily. One thing I'll always say to you as well, just for food for thought, as we're on the details, welcome to the Get Obsessed part of the Jonny Shiell Detailing channel, is when you're claying, when we wash cars, we try and go in straight lines, yeah? Because straight lines are much easier to get out of the paintwork when it comes to polishing. And second of all, the way the light reflects off straight lines makes a huge difference when it's if the car ends up with damage on it. The way the light refracts on it, it sort of it doesn't pick up the light as well. So straight lines are good. So when you're claying, you could be a little bit more thoughtful. Try and go in straight lines as well. Like I said, you don't need pressure with claying. You just need speed. But like I said, work in the same way as you wash the vehicle. Look at that. This is the feedback I love. And look at the dirt. Look at that. Picking up some tiny, tiny tar spots. And that is one of the reasons why, guys, I have a big opinion on using synthetic clays, because even after the tar and glue process, there still can be micro tar spots on here that you might not see. And so, as much as sometimes I like to use a clay bar to do a lot more synthetic clay to do the heavy lifting, because they're so big, they're easy to clean, they drop on the floor, there's less of a problem. But for me, when I'm doing darker coloured cars like this, I can see if I've missed any tar spots. And you can't get everything because it's, like I said, when you're working at speed most of the time. But if anyone knows what DMS is like, by the way, this is like doing a mild water spot treatment at the same time. So this is a great little procedure to use DMS as a clay bar lotion. And everyone who's reviewed the product knows how slick it is as well. And so the next port of call for this car is, while things are a little bit quieter at the Jonny Shiell Detailing HQ, quieter on the car front, really busy on the content front, and really busy with some other stuff as well, other projects at the moment. This car is going to get coated with Cerberus, the three-headed dog. That's the name of Gary's Therapy's consumer coating. And I can't wait to tell you the story of Cerberus and how it came to fall and why it fits into the garage therapy stuff. And if I've just been talking to Maz about it recently about it, and if you know anything about Greek mythology, probably going to enjoy why Gary Therapy called them after these titans. So that's feeling great. Really is smack. Look, this went through a tar process. There is no way you can tell me a synthetic clay bar is pulling that stuff off. 100%. Don't forget to do your glass. And we've got some really cool content coming up on glass cleaning. This is going to be an absolute big video on glass cleaning. I've got some really cool tips on glass cleaning coming out, which I'm going to share with you just quickly. So we've got the regular way of glass cleaning, what towels we're going to use with regular glass cleaning. We're going to talk about how to decontaminate glass for better glass protection, not better glass protection, on making glass easier to clean. We've got different techniques using different towels, different products, window squeegees, steam, rinseless wash, glass cleaner, how to machine polish glass. So many different tools, so many different techniques. So I'm going to leave it there. If there's any questions you've got about clay barring or GT clay, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Garage Therapy tools now are available obviously at the House of Rags, the products, the chemicals and stuff. If you are in the UK, you can use the code from Clean and Shiny, which is OI10. And if you're in America, you can use the code OI10 on the House of Rags. So if you want to get yourself a little bit of discount or anything like that, then use the code. It's going to give you a little bit of thing. It will give me a little bit of a kickback, but that's not the reason why I do it. I want to do it because I want to make sure that you guys get a little bit of discount. So happy days. Anyway, I'm going to finish off claying this. I'll leave the pictures up on my stories later. And if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. See you soon.